Hello and welcome back. Today we've been submitted a case for a tooth missing number 7. And um, let's start with the obvious. First step is this a digital analog workflow. To me, this is a digital workflow. Our choices are then CEREC guide, a digital guide, or OptiGuide. Typically in the anteriors, I make the decision, or actually anywhere I make the decision based on how much accuracy I want or need. The more tight the space, the more the precision I need. I always opt towards the OptiGuide as my guide of choice. When we have a little wiggle room, I will choose my CEREC guide. Those are pretty much the two guides that my preferential choice of use are. And the digital guide I use when the OptiGuide is not necessary and I'm looking for something a little bit more economical, but CEREC guide isn't the logical choice for multiple cases. So we have the CEREC data here. And the good news is we got a full arch, so we have all different guide choices available to us. And then, I'll always look and decide. The first thing I look at when somebody does CEREC drawings here is I'll go ahead and look at how as our margin looks. So right here we can see, here's our margin lines, like so. Okay, and then if we draw a straight line from K9 to K9, we can see that, if I were to be nitpicky, I would say that this the lateral tooth number 7 is a little bit higher than tooth number 10. And if I were to be really picky on it, I would say, in looking at from this view right here, I would say that our design is definitely a little bit bulky right in here. And does it matter from the planning perspective? The margin certainly can. The bulkiness is not that big of an issue. But again, I like to know exactly what I'm dealing with because that bulkiness can affect our implant placement, virtual planning a little bit in the terms of emergence profile that we have. So when possible, I like to match this to what I really want my final to look like. So the other area that I'll take a look at on these particular cases also is right in here. If I were to look at this right here, again, I'm being very picky in this particular case, I would say that that's going this way and that's going this way. So in other words, are we going to actually design this tooth slightly rotated? And that also matters. So again, overall, not a bad design. My only concern would be two things. Is my margin a little bit high and my emergence profile of the thickness right there a little bit big. Now this case was sent to me already pre-planned. Here is the original plan right here, and I'll go over the notes that was sent with this. I'm needing some help on this case. I extracted number 7 on June the 11th, 2015 and grafted the site at that appointment. The tooth was extracted due to internal resorption. Not only am I concerned about adequate buccal-lingual distance, I also wonder if the graft took well enough. Can you please review the case and give me your thoughts? By the way, this is an extremely high-maintenance patient. So let's take a look at the plan and then I'll come back to the notes and my thoughts on that. So here's the original plan. Again, we can clearly see here that our buccal lingual dimension is deficient. So we've got enough room here on the lingual to sustain that implant, and we may or may not have enough room here on the buccal. We're definitely deficient here. Okay, so the question becomes: am I going to need to graft? And the answer really is you need to be prepared to flap and have to graft in this particular area, right in here. I would say that this is the likely area that we'll need to graft in. And even if you don't have the implant exposed there, you'll want to add some thickness of bone to help protect that area. And also that'll correspond in right here, and you can see in the 3D view that there's a depression right through here in that, and that'll also help make that tissue a little bit thicker and better as cosmetically there as well. So also in looking at this plan, it's pretty well placed. That's coming out direct buccal, which based on the bone position may not be the only option that we have here. But what I want to look at is that truly our only choice in terms of bone? The other thing that I'm looking at here is my occlusal plane seems to be off right here on the tangential view. We can see that that doesn't look like the central incisors are flat. So in a perfect world, I would like to, if possible, get my occlusal plane a little bit better, and now we can see that's coming along. But to fix that, I'm going to really run into the roots. So it may be that we can make it better but not perfect. So something along this line may be the only choice there. So that's not bad there. Um, Now in terms of the grafting, the only thing that I noticed here in terms of what may not have been grafted well, I don't know the preoperative situation, how long the tooth was, the root was, but there looks to be that right in here we're seeing a little bit of radiolucency and something going on there. So this may be an area that when you go in to do the surgery, you may have to take a closer look at this area, and you may end up having to add some graft material there. You may have to go in and clean some tissue out. But the good news is your implant is going through that area, so more than likely osteotomy is going to clean that out completely. Now here's the plan that I updated this to get the implant position. Instead of coming so much through the buccal, now we have the implant coming through the incisal edge. And the reason I did this like this was because I'm intending or likely having to graft on the buccal. So if I'm going to graft on the buccal, I might as well go ahead and idealize my implant placement a little bit more so I can get better emergence profile that way. So hopefully this makes sense. So the only other thing that I noticed from the plan, the original plan, is this implant is placed quite deep. So if we take our diagnosis tab and do our measurement, we are a solid 4 millimeters below the gingival margin. So you know that we know that we may want to be about 3 millimeters or so. So the implant's a little bit deeper than necessary, probably about a millimeter or so. And then given that our margin is drawn a little bit high, it's probably more like 2 millimeters deeper than it needs to be. So overall, this is certainly a tough case, and quite honestly, this would be a case that I would not tackle in my office, not because it's hard or not because it's not possible, but more because this is an extremely high maintenance patient. So why take on a challenge that may not be necessary, or that may turn out to be something that you regret, because it's a challenging case surgically, it's a challenging case patient-wise, and it's an anterior area. So why take on those challenges? Thanks for submitting the case.